Hey everyone, just a reminder that until Monday, my G Fuel discount code IMMORTAL will actually get you 30% off your entire order. So if you want to try G Fuel for the first time or restock on your favorite tub, now is a great time to do so. But anyways, on to today's video. Ladies and gentlemen, hey hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. As we know, the recent 1.23 update ended up changing a lot of weapons within Modern Warfare. That update had one of the biggest weapon tuning passes that we've seen so far this year, and that means a lot of new setups have made their way into the meta. So today we're breaking down the best class setups to use in multiplayer after the 1.23 patch. So if you enjoy the video at any point, or if you just find it helpful, let me know by dropping a like on it. And of course, if you're new here, I am always covering the latest news, intel, updates, leaks, and everything else regarding Call of Duty, so feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on to stay up to date with all of that. Now, as I said, these classes are intended for multiplayer, where obviously things are pretty different from Warzone. However, I do already have a Warzone specific video regarding the best setups to use now on the channel, so if you do want to check that one out too, it'll be linked in the description below. Anyways, as we get into the classes here, just a heads up, I do use the same perks and secondary and equipment on all of my setups. So we're just going to cover them once at the start and then run through the primary setups on all the remaining classes. So class number 1 today is all about the PKM, and keep in mind this list is not in any specific order necessarily, but the PKM is definitely one of the best weapons in the game. Mainly because 1, it's very easy to use, 2, it's strong, and 3, it's versatile. And that's a combination that is just too good to pass up. And while it may be an LMG at the end of the day, by the time you've got this setup on it, it doesn't really feel like what you would expect an LMG to feel like. So here we're rocking the compensator first and foremost to help control that recoil a bit. Then we have the snatch grip, which does more of the same, but it also increases the mobility some as well. Then we've got the tack laser for better stability and mobility, the stipple grip tape, the classic, which as always is pretty much a must-have in multiplayer because of its speed increases. Then finally we have the no stock attachment, which I'm not gonna lie is not going to see a ton of attention today because, as we know, the 1.23 update actually nerfed no stock altogether, increasing the recoil while using it and just all around making it less valuable to have on a class. However, because the PKM is an LMG, having no stock on there is going to give you some fantastic mobility. And even though we do lose some control in the process, the compensator and the snatch grip do make up for that pretty well. So this setup stays being very dominant when it comes down to it. Now, as far as the secondary goes, I'm just gonna call it how I see it. Ever since the 357 and the Renettis got nerfed, I'm not really a big secondary guy. Most times I'm just gonna grab another weapon off the ground, or honestly never even swap to my pistol unless it is absolutely necessary. But as it stands, I do think the M19 is a pistol that can hold its own in just about any kind of engagement where you would want to be using a pistol. So on the M19, I've got the monolithic suppressor to increase the range, the super barrel to help with that as well, the 1mW laser or the 5mW laser, honestly either one will do just fine, the lightweight triggers so you can spam it a bit more, and finally the akimbo perk because in this case, 2 is certainly better than 1. Then for my perks, in multiplayer I find EOD, restock, then either shrapnel or amped to be the most ideal, that way explosives don't impact me as much, but I can definitely go after plenty of engagements with them. Then finally for my equipment, I've got the C4 and also the stim. Now moving into class number 2, this one is all about one of the new best weapons in multiplayer thanks to the 1.23 update. And of course, what we're talking about here is the FAL. Now, to be honest, the FAL has always been pretty good, but maybe not the most meta-friendly weapon just because it is semi-auto, so that kind of raises the skill gap. But now, thanks to the recent close range damage buff, and the fact that it can be a one hit to the head with stopping power equipped, makes this thing even more dominant, and honestly, if you've got the trigger finger, the FAL can be unmatched at the end of the day. So here I'm rocking the marksman barrel for better range and control, the tack laser for the same reasons as before, the ranger foregrip. However, because this is a semi-auto weapon, most of the recoil here depends on exactly how fast you're shooting. So honestly, most of the other underbarrels are pretty viable too. Then I've got the stippy grippy as we know it, and finally the close quarters stock for some added mobility in addition to everything else. And trust me when I say, don't sleep on the FAL anymore, this thing is a beast. Then another weapon that became significantly better after the update is the CAR 98K, which may be the single best weapon for aggressive sniping in the entire game. I don't know, there is just something about using the CAR and playing extremely aggressive that is just so satisfying to me. I have a ton of fun while using this weapon, and it certainly helps that it just got even better thanks to the update. So here I've got the tac laser, the sniper scope is my preferred optic, the sport stock to increase the ADS speed, the stipple grip tape yet again, and also the focus perk to reduce flinch, all of which makes the CAR the perfect sniper for players who like to play fast. Now, speaking of snipers, there is one more that I think is worth mentioning, and that is the brand new Rytec AMR. Now, whether it is true top 10 material, I guess that's sort of up for debate, but seeing as it is new to the game and we have yet to dissect a multiplayer setup for it, I did want to include it here. And also, this thing is genuinely good in multiplayer. I do think it is far better here than in Warzone, as this thing is just a powerhouse in general. You know, it's got one hit kill potential for days, and you feel that when using it in game. So on the Rytec, I've got the 7 straight barrel, the tac laser, the VLK 3x optic, as the normal scope just isn't my cup of tea. Then I also have the stipple grip tape once more, and the tac wrap stock for a faster ADS speed. I will say naturally this thing is pretty slow, however the damage and the range here stay consistent as well. So really you don't see any major cons from these attachments. Now, class number 5 features the M4A1, which of course has been one of the best, if not the best weapon in multiplayer for the entire year. And because it saw no major nerfs with the 1.23 update, it stays being an absolute phenom. However, the on-meta setup for it was kind of nerfed, as previously everyone liked to run no stock on it, which now is not super ideal considering the recoil increase. So, the new attachment setup consists of the Corvus barrel, the Commando foregrip, the tac laser once more, the GI mini reflex, and also the grip tape of the stippled nature, which definitely is not as fast as the no stock setup, but by all means it's not ridiculously slower, and the control here is fantastic, meaning this M4 is a laser beam in pretty much every single engagement. Then, class number 6 focuses on the M13. And quite frankly, the Kilo 141 is also very close here. You could really use either of these and consider them to be top 10 weapons easily, but for this video I did decide on the M13. And here we've got the marksman barrel, the commando foregrip, the stipple grip tape, the GI mini reflex, and also the skeleton stock for better mobility. And the lack of recoil here, alongside the high fire rate, means the M13 is going to melt through everyone and everything. Now, following that, we've got the BRUEN Mark 9, another beast of an LMG that, again, doesn't really feel all that much like an LMG. You know, this thing is fantastic in Warzone, fantastic in multiplayer. I would say this is the best LMG in the game, but even then it is still pretty underrated and underutilized in my opinion. That may or may not have to do with the unlock challenge, which is frustrating. Anyways, on the BRUEN we've got the Horizon barrel, the commando foregrip, the 60 round mags, which really make it feel a whole lot more like an assault rifle, the Stippy Grippy, and finally the skeleton stock yet again, since no stock is no longer super viable. Then we've got setup number 8, which is all about the MP7, which in my mind is still the number 2 SMG in the game. It was not nerfed with the mid-season update, so it still feels just as good as before. Here I've got the Recon barrel, the tac laser, the Merc foregrip, the stipple grip tape, and surprisingly, no stock. But mainly that's because the MP7's recoil pattern is one of the easiest to learn in the entire game. It is basically straight vertical, and even with the no stock nerf, the recoil here is not too bad whatsoever. Now, we all know that the Grau was also nerfed in the 1.23 update, but even so, it is still very good in multiplayer. However, there are some changes that I think need to be made when it comes to what attachments you want to be using. So, on the Grau now, I use the monolithic suppressor since the range was nerfed, the Nexus barrel because the Archangel is just a bit too slow with the setup we have, the tac laser for mobility and stability, the commando foregrip, and also the 60 round mags, which is more so just out of preference. You know, using a grip or even sleight of hand is also totally viable, but without no stock, this setup does change pretty drastically, and this is what I find works the best now. Then finally, setup number 10 today features the MP5, the king of the SMGs, and to be honest, it is still the best SMG in the game even after the nerf. It is still great for rushing, it's still great for slaying out, and in reality, the nerf really didn't do all that much. So here I've got the tac laser as a replacement to no stock. You could still use no stock, I suppose, or the collapsible stock rather, but the recoil is not going to be super friendly in that case, so I do opt for the tack laser there. Then I've got the Merc foregrip, the 10mm round still, the Stippy Grippy for one last time, and also sleight of hand to round things out there. So with all of that being said, those are the best setups to run in Modern Warfare after the 1.23 update, and that is going to wrap things up for today. If you guys enjoyed the video, or if you just found it helpful, let me know by dropping a like on it. And of course, if you're new here and you want to stay up to date with the latest Call of Duty news, intel, updates, leaks, and pretty much everything in between, feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on. That way you'll always know whenever I upload a new video. As I mentioned earlier, right now until Monday, my G Fuel discount code IMMORTAL will get you 30% off your entire order. So if you want to grab a new tub, shaker, or starter pack, or if you want to try G Fuel for the first time, now is the best time to do so. But once again, thanks so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.